Hey there, AK here. This is my review of the POCO M3 Pro, which is the Pro version of this device here, the POCO M3. In many areas, it's an upgrade over the regular version, but its pricing is also much higher. Is it worth getting? Let's find out.
Both of these devices have a triple camera setup consisting of a 48 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Pictures in day are alright, though colors can be quite artificial. Here's a comparison with my Vivo Nex 3, which represented the actual colors of the sky really well, and this gets even more exaggerated when you turn on AI mode. Under low lighting conditions, the POCO M3 Pro struggles like the POCO M3. However, the M3 Pro's photos turn out much brighter, and this is really similar to what we saw on the S3 NFC and the S3 Pro. The macro mode's 2 megapixel photos are decent, but with very limited dynamic range. Edge detection for portrait mode does a pretty good job. Both devices have an 8 megapixel selfie camera on the front, one in the form of a notch and the other in a hole punch. Their quality are pretty comparable.
Speaking of the hole punch camera, let's talk about the display. Both of these are very similar at 6.5 inch with Full HD resolution, but only the Pro features a 90Hz display.
Like the POCO M3, the M3 Pro has a headphone jack, but this one is positioned to the left instead of somewhere near the center. Both devices have a fingerprint scanner built into the power button on the side, and both are very fast.
In terms of storage, both of these start at a base variant of 64GB with 4GB of RAM, and that can go up to 128GB with 4GB of RAM and 6GB of RAM respectively for the non-Pro and Pro version. The regular POCO M3 starts at just $199, while this starts at $299, and that's a whopping 50% difference in price. And if you opt for the 128GB version, this goes up to $339. What is it about these two devices that actually sets them $100 apart? Let's find out.
First, that design. The POCO M3 Pro looks drastically different from the regular POCO M3. POCO M3 has a leather-like plastic body that feels really durable, though it isn't particularly attractive. Meanwhile, the Pro has a mirror-like plastic body, and looking into it directly, you see a faint reflection of yourself, mixed with reflection from other angles. This multi-layer finishing is just gorgeous.
Internally, this device is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor, and from my testing, it's much more powerful than the Snapdragon 662 on the regular POCO M3, but at the same time, it's not as powerful as the Snapdragon 732 found on the POCO X3 NFC, which is priced really similarly to this.
This is especially noticeable in a game like Genshin Impact. It runs smoothly at lowest and low graphics, but on medium graphics you start to see some stutter. This is a huge step up from the M3, which stutters even on the lowest graphics.
With that Dimensity 700 processor, you are getting 5G supports on both SIM. However, most plans in Singapore right now do not offer 5G, and even if they do, they tend to cost quite a bit. If you are using a device at this price range, you probably don't have access to one of those plans, so this feature is pretty much useless right now. Battery size has gone down from 6000 mAh on the regular version to 5000 mAh on the Pro, but that isn't a bad thing. Firstly, the Pro is quite a bit lighter compared to the M3, which is pretty heavy for the size. At the same time, charging duration is shorter thanks to that smaller battery, though both of these only support 18 watts fast charging, and that isn't much when you have a device of this battery size.
During testing, I wanted to keep the screen on like I usually do, but then I saw that 4-hour charging time estimate. Hence, for this test, I left the screen off, and that still took a whopping 1 hour 50 minutes to go from 2% to full.
However, battery life on this thing is still equally amazing. With moderate usage involving multiple games of Call of Duty Mobile, and hours of listening to music via wired earphones, this thing lasted me close to 3 full days, which is insane. Of course, if you're going to game quite a bit more, then this thing will drain faster, but overall, this battery will satisfy almost everyone.
Lastly, the M3 Pro also has support for NFC, and that is absent on the non-Pro version.
Overall, the POCO M3 Pro is an improvement over the POCO M3 in almost every aspect, and that is to be expected from the difference in price. And if you take a look at other devices with similar specs, including the Realme 8, and that costs around $400, this seems like a pretty good deal. But in my opinion, this device is priced too similarly to the POCO M3 NFC, and I would rather get that device. While you're getting 5G on this device, what you're giving up is better gaming performance, the ultra wide angle camera, and fast charging that is actually fast.
At the same time, the Redmi Note 10 5G, which this device is based off on, is also available in Singapore. Apart from the design of the rear, everything about them is identical. That is available for $329 for the version with 128 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM.
You heard that right. By paying $10 less, you are getting 2 gigs of RAM more. That makes absolutely no sense. And that is the end of my review of the POCO M3 Pro. If you have any questions, I'll be having a live stream this coming Saturday, 5th of June at 8 PM over on Shopee. So look for me there and ask me any questions about this device. See you!